Okay, good evening again, friends from everywhere in Malaysia. I believe one of the advantages of this Zoom meeting is that we can meet from around every corner of Malaysia, right? Now, many of you do not know, I just want to share with you, do you know that actually Dr. Forrest C. Shackley and I do share some similarities? I bet you don't know his name. Well, unfortunately, the similarities that we share is not a positive one. Now, both of us actually, when we were young, both of us were very sickly. Unfortunately, that's the only similarity that I share with Dr. Forrest Shackley. Okay. Now he has tuberculosis and I have asthma. Right. So I remember when I was a young kid, many years ago, I was very sickly. So my parents didn't know what to do. So I spent my time being shuffled between temples and hospital. But finally, I realized that actually the problem that I have is actually what we are going to talk about tonight, asthma. All right. So let's have a look at asthma together and find out what is it actually is. So a lot of people say that asthma is actually is a disease. But for me, frankly, asthma is not actually a disease. It's a condition. All right. And it's a condition in which it is a chronic condition that causes the air passage to be inflamed, and because of the inflammation, it needs to the narrowing of the air passage. And of course, because of the narrowing, you have the common symptoms, the well-known symptoms of asthma, that is wheezing and difficulty in breathing. All right. So now, what is asthma? Let's have a look. Basically, the disease causes inflammation and narrowing inside the lung, restricting airflow. That's what I mentioned to you just now. And during the development of asthma, the airways swell, because of the inflammation, and becomes extremely sensitive to some of the substances in which the person might have inhaled. And that the thing that the person inhaled, the substances, is what we call the trigger factor or allergen. And when this activity cause a reaction, the muscle that controls the air passage, the airways, start to tighten, right? And eventually this might restrict the airways even further. And at the same time, it produces a lot of mucus and adds to make the situation worse, all right? So this is basically what asthma is. And what are the, and just here's a pictorial picture of, you can see how it works. Now you can see that your normal airway, you can see that it is open, all right? But when an asthmatic airway normally is a bit, because of inflammation, it is actually closed. Narrower, it's narrower. And when the attack starts, it becomes more and more narrow, and plus the formation of the mucus, the air passage sometimes get blocked, all right? So this is what happens when you are having an asthma attack, right? And what are the symptoms of asthma? Of course, the common one is difficulty in breathing. And because you have difficulty in breathing, you want to get some air, you start to have cough, and this is called dry cough. And for some people, you get chest pain and tightness, right? And normally, also, and you start to cough at night, you have shortness of breath. And one of the things that most asthmatic people have is this wheezing sound. So you can hear when you, especially when you sleep at night, you get this, the wheezing sound. And as an asthmatic patient, as an asthmatic person, these are the things that I experienced, when I was young. And few years ago, I don't know why, as I grew up, after I've grown up, this condition actually went off. So I didn't have this problem for many years until a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years back, the condition came back. So it simply tells you that actually asthma is not curable. There's no cure for asthma, right? And there is also no reason why the doctors cannot, and the scientists cannot find the cause. So one of the main contributing factor for asthma is actually genetic. And for me, it's proven because I have asthma and my second daughter also has asthma, despite the fact that she is a what do you call that, Shackley baby. So she had asthma also. So the only way that we can do is to try and control the disease, okay? So as you can see here, you have wheezing, high-pitched sound, feeling of not being able to get enough air, and the feeling of tightness in the chest and coughing. And for an asthmatic patient, the one thing that we must always carry with us is this thing called the inhaler. I believe some of you, I just moved back the, wait, you can see the inhaler there, the asthma inhaler. Okay, this is the thing that for an asthmatic patient, the tagline is never leave home without it. And that was what I used to carry around with me 5 or 6 years back when the attack came back. I mean, you know, and I tell you, it is being an asthmatic patient is not really having a good life, because you're always very anxious, particularly when you forgot to take your inhaler out. So I used to have a lot of inhaler. I have one in my car, I have one in my house, I have one in my pocket, just to make sure that I have the inhaler, because without the inhaler, if the attack comes, you'll have problem. All right. So now there are trigger factors. Like I said, there are triggers that actually cause the onset of the asthmatic attacks. And here, and for an asthmatic patient, what we need to do is we need to find out what are the trigger factors. And I'm going to share with you what the thing that triggered my asthma 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm going to show you what it is for me. But here are some of the trigger factors that you can see the asthmatic patient have to be very careful. I mean, you know, to look at. First of all, pets, all right? Exercise sometimes, and for me, it's the same. You know, I cannot, when I was having the asthmatic condition at that time, I cannot go for exercise, because every time I exercise, the breathlessness will come, the shortness of breath will come. I mean, you know, then I will have to go on my path. Pollen, plant pollen, bugs in the home, chemical fumes, cold air, right? Fungus spores, even dust, I mean, and smoke, sometimes strong odors, but strong odors, generally it comes from some kind of chemical. I mean, you know, so for instance, like the volatile chemicals that are present in cleaners and all these kind of things, and pollution, and sometimes stress can trigger your asthmatic attack. And don't get angry lah, okay? If you're angry, you sometimes can get asthmatic attack. And now asthma actually can be fatal, all right? If it's not addressed properly, it's not taken care of, it's not controlled. And I believe some of you who are as old as me would have remembered that the most famous person to have died, I mean, in Asia, to have died of asthmatic attack is, of course, none other than the Taiwanese singer Teresa Teng, right? So it can be fatal, so we have to really take care of that. And I just want to share another thing. I'm going to talk to you about my asthmatic condition 5 or 6 years back. Now, what was the trigger factor? Actually, and Charlene will know about it now, Master Charlene will know about it. 5 or 6 years ago, I was somehow or other very indisciplined with regards to 3-in-1 white coffee, right? So why I say Charlene knows about it, because I always order the typing 3-in-1 coffee from her, all right? So I used to consume, like I wasn't disciplined, because I love it so much that I consume sometimes 3 to 4 packets a day. I mean, and all of a sudden, I started to have this kind of asthmatic symptoms coming in, you know. And at that time, I still don't realize that it was the coffee, you know. So despite having the symptom, I was still happily ordering the 3-in-1 coffee, typing coffee from Charlene, and enjoying my 3-in-1 coffee and suffer at the same time, you know. So, and of course, I have my inhaler, you know. And it was like after almost a year plus, you know, that's somehow or other is like a eureka thing, or suddenly occurred to me, you know, why don't I try stopping the 3-in-1 coffee and see? Now, I was having this attack despite taking Shackley product on a regular basis. That tells you how bad the 3-in-1 coffee is, all right? So despite taking the Shaklee product, I was still having an attack and I still need my inhaler. You know? So the moment I stopped the 3-in-1 coffee, suddenly, slowly, the attack goes away. At the same time, I also increase the intake of the omega gut, which I will share with you later. You know? So ladies and gentlemen, if you're a person who's into 3-in-1 coffee, be very careful. Have I completely stopped the 3-in-1 coffee? No, because I love it too much. All right, but I control myself. Nowadays, I take maybe 1 week, twice or 3 times. That's all. I mean, you know. So this for me, that was the trigger factor. So let's have a look at what we can do in order, because I told you there's no cure. So let's have a look at what we can do in order to manage the condition. And of course, in Shaklee, we talk about managing it through nutrition. Okay, so now let's have a look at some of the products that Shaklee has that can help to control asthma. All right, so I normally recommend the first one, and this is my standard recommendation. I always recommend in all conditions. I always start off with this family wellness program, which is consists of the protein, the ESP protein, the multivitamin, which is the Vitally, the vitamin C, sustained release vitamin C plus, of course, the B complex. Now, these 4 products forms the base, the foundation for your nutritional, for nutrition towards your optimal health. What they do is they supply the essential nutrients that are needed to build and maintain optimal health, which is important to the management of asthma. Now, our body is actually, like Dr. Shaklee said, you know, I mean, you know, we are part of nature. I mean, you know, so if we take care of nature, nature will take care of us. It's the same. You take care of the health of your body will take care of your health. It works like that. So always starts off with the basic, which is the protein, the Vitally, the sustained release C, and the B complex. Okay, and this will build the foundation for you, and it will maintain your overall health at an optimal level. Right? So the next one, of course, is Nutriferon. Now, all of us who are, I believe most of you already know what Nutriferon is. Basically, Nutriferon is specially formulated to boost your immune system. But Nutriferon, I have done some research as to the what do you call that, the ingredient, the main ingredient in Nutriferon, the substance, there's an interferon. And how does interferon actually help with asthma, right? Now, the first one, of course, Nutriferon is formulated to naturally increase the levels of interferon in our body, okay? And this provides immune support at the cellular level. So our body contains this thing called interferon, but as we age and due to our lifestyle and all that, the production decreases. And Nutriferon actually helps us to increase this interferon. And how does interferon help to manage asthma is that research has shown that the interferon can actually reduce the severity of asthma symptoms, right? So, like, you know what I'm shown to you just now what the symptoms are. Of course, the shortness of breath. I mean, you know, the tightness and all these things. These are called the symptoms. So, interferon can help to reduce the severity if taken on a regular basis. And this is actually scientifically researched and proven that it does that, not from Shaklee, but from other sources, okay? So this is how Nutriferon can help with asthma, right? So the next one that we need to look at, of course, this is for asthmatic patients or people with asthma. This is very, very important. And not only this is important, this is very, very effective. Omega gut fish oil, and most other, I mean, it's recommended by scientists as well, okay, and doctors. Now, what it does is of course, omega gut has many other functions. So one of the main and important function of omega is it is anti-inflammatory. So what it does is actually it reduces inflammation. And one of the main cause of asthmatic condition is inflammation of the air passage. And so omega is very effective in reducing inflammation that leads to the constriction of air passage, causing difficulty in breathing. All right. So this is what omega is, and it is very, very effective in my 30 over years in, in sharing omega gut, especially to people with asthma. Sometimes you can get immediate effect when you're having that the breathlessness and gasping for air. Omega gut, you take omega gut, and if you want it to be more effective, what you do is you break it up, put into warm water, and you drink it straight away, and the result is almost immediate. And that's how wonderful this product is. Of course, beside the effectiveness, that our Shakti omega gut is pure, concentrated natural fish oil and pharmaceutical grade. Now, I just want to share a little bit about fish oil. Now, fish oil, you have to be very careful of the brand and the company you buy from, because of, most of you are aware of the high pollution levels in the seas where these fish are harvested. All right. So you got to be very careful, because not many companies are like Shakti that ensures that it is safe and it is pure. Right? And the next one, of course, the antioxidant vitamins. And of course, antioxidant vitamins like A, C, and E. And we all know about that, all right? So, and Shakti's antioxidant vitamins are in the form of carotomax, vitamin C, and vitamin E. And how does antioxidant help in managing the asthma? So it says that the role of antioxidant vitamins such as A, C, and E is to counteract oxidants. Of course, antioxidant is to counteract oxidants and reduce, it reduce external attacks. Okay, now one of the things that attacks our cells is of course free radicals. Besides that, there are also bacteria and virus and toxins and xenobiotics in the lung. Okay, and one of the trigger for actually asthma attacks is this thing called viral infection. Viral infection can actually, like colds and all this type of thing and flu, can actually trigger asthma attack in a person with asthma condition, right? So, and what antioxidant vitamin does is actually it modulate, that means it controls the development of asthma, and it also controls the damage to the pulmonary, the impairment, that means the impairment of the pulmonary function. That means it ensures that what pulmonary means anything that's related to the lung and all that, okay? And it ensures that the function is in optimal order, all right? So this is basically what antioxidant does. And also there is a study that actually has shown that there is a relationship between oxidative stress and your bronchial inflammation, as well as development of asthmatic symptoms. Simply means that asthma and oxidative stress, there is a link. So that's why we need to have antioxidant vitamins, okay? And of course, the next one I like to add in is this thing called osteomatrix. And you're wondering what has bone got to do with asthma, all right? So it's nothing to do with the bone, but it's to do with the ingredients, that's in present osteomatics. And these are the two vitamins or vitamins and minerals that's present in osteomatrix that's very beneficial for asthmatic sufferers, all right? And first one, of course, is vitamin D, and the second one is magnesium, right? So what does vitamin D, how does vitamin D help? Basically, vitamin D helps to lower the risk of respiratory infection that can induce asthma, like what I mentioned just now. One of them is the viral infection. So vitamin D helps to lower the risk of that by boosting up the immune system. Okay, that's how vitamin D does, and it has been shown scientifically to help, right? And the other one, of course, magnesium. Okay, now how does magnesium help? Now, magnesium is a bronchodilator. Simply means magnesium helps to dilate the air passage. It expands the air passage, thus allowing more air to flow through your air passage, and that helps to relieve asthmatic symptoms such as shortness of breath. Okay, so that's how osteomatrix can help, because of the two ingredients that's present in there. That is the vitamin D and the magnesium. So that's why I recommend Osteometrics. Right? Of course, the vitamin D and the magnesium is also present in our Vitally. Right? Now, lately, vitamin D has gained quite a lot of what do you call it, attention, because a lot of doctors have actually claimed that vitamin D, besides vitamin C, is also very helpful in facing this COVID virus. All right. So make sure you have your vitamin D. All right. And last but not least, of course, we have this thing called Vivix. All right. Yeah. So how does Vivix help? Now, Vivix is actually basically it actually build your cellular health through this 4 function. Okay. First of all, it repairs your DNA, right? And secondly, it's a genetic regulator, which means it actually, if you have a tendency towards asthma, I mean, that's how the Vivix can actually help, to prevent that. And declining cellular energy, of course, there's a thing that we face. So Vivix help to actually boost up your cellular energy production. And that, of course, cellular energy is very important to have for good health, right? And of course, the accumulation of the H protein. We all know that H protein is those proteins that are not good for you, and is actually part of the thing that destroys your cells, right? So what happens is Vivix actually takes care of your cells. And when your cells are healthy, your organs are healthy, and your organs healthy, all your systems will perform well. And when all your systems perform well, basically you will have a healthy body. And when you have a healthy body, it will be able to cope with the asthmatic conditions that you are having. All right. So for those who don't have, of course, good for you. But for those who have this predisposition, people like me and my daughter, I mean, we have it in our gene, so we are predisposed to it. So any trigger factors that triggers, we will get it. But thank goodness for me, for my own experience, is that 1 year after that until today, no more already. I mean, I don't have to carry my inhaler around anymore. And thanks to the Shakti product. All right. And of course, besides that, the other thing that actually contribute as a trigger factor that you mentioned earlier just now that I've shown to you, the cleaners and all that, those are also have triggers such as the chemicals and whatever. And because of that, it's very important that we have we use products that are non-toxic, that are natural, that do not contain chemical, that doesn't cause allergic reaction. That means it's non-allergenic. It's very important of that. It's biodegradable, okay? It doesn't contain harmful substances, no chemicals, So we have a range of this product that you can use, especially for people with asthma who is very prone to allergic reaction, to use non-allergenic products that Shakti has, okay? And when you talk about Get Clean product, of course, the people in Shakti will always talk about, what do you call that? Roger Barnett's wife, Roger Barnett's son, Spencer Barnett, okay? And this is how Roger was introduced to Shakti as well, because of the Get Clean product, because his son, who never had asthma, suddenly start to develop asthmatic conditions and asthmatic symptoms. And they discovered that, it was caused by actually the cleaners that they were using for their floors and their furnitures and all that, And Roger Barnett actually went on to find out that the products from Shakti are actually good and harmless and helps with the son's asthmatic condition. And that is how he ended up today as being the owner of Shakti product. Right? So that is a very good testimony. So after knowing the products that we need to take and all that, so of course, what's the difference? What's the Shakti difference? Of course, there are many other products out there that you can buy. Okay. The difference is, of course, always safe, always work, always green. Now, I just want to talk about always safe. Now today, I was just, because I had a bit of time, I look at the YouTube, and they were talking about the internet, NLM companies that were actually investigated by the FDA and the authorities in US, and there were top 10 MLM companies that were actually investigated by because of a lot of complaints from the public and also from their members and from that, And I was so glad to say that Shaklee was not in there. Of course, it's obvious. I mean, I don't have to be worried about that. But at the same time, I was just thinking how glad I am that I happen to have come across Shaklee, that I'm not exposed to this company. And one of the company starts with H. I think you know what when I say it starts with H. Okay, it's a doing very well and whatever it is. Even they have discovered heavy metals like lead in their product. So talking about that is, can you imagine how fantastic it is that we are in a company where the product is always safe, always work, and always green. And not only that, it is confirmed by third party review through the landmark study. Of course, the landmark study is a study that compares what do you call that? Three groups of people who consume Shaklee product, people who consume other brands, and people who don't consume supplements at all. And you can see the difference. You can look through, I just show you. Overall, just to round it up, you can see that people who are on Shaklee supplements for 20 years and above, these are the things that they have. They take little to no medication, okay? Their health level is very much better than the rest. They have very much lower risk of dementia, okay? They have good metabolic health, which means that they are basically very healthy and very slim. They don't have much heart problem, and generally the risk of having cancer and other kinds of things is very low, right? And one of the things is, of course, they hardly go to see the doctors. And that we, not just out there, I believe I'm qualified as one of the person because I've been taking Shaklee for more than 20 years. And I can tell you that I have not seen the doctor for a long, long, long time. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the wonderful thing about Shaklee product, and it works. All right. So all you need to do is just go out and share the product with everyone you know. Of course, I believe there are a lot of asthmatic sufferers out there. And it is, I believe that it's become more and more and more nowadays because of the lifestyle, the food that we take, and the environmental condition. So there are a lot of people out there that we can help. Just go out and help. So with that, I end my talk and I pass the floor back to Sean Koo.